Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be going over the full build showcase for the Bleed Blast Rain Marksman. So this is the build that I started with. I took it from level 1 and pushed it all the way, I think, to 97 or 98. We got to 700 corruption, and we killed Aberoth, and we've done a bunch of farming. This build is already done after 3 days, and that is mainly due to just how fast it is in monoliths. You just simply blast rain through monoliths and use umbral blades for single target. It is very simple. If you want to see what my day 1 gear was like, I'll be linking a video down below in the description, which will be my day one thoughts on the build. But yeah, this is going to be the full build showcase. So if you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of currently supporting me, and it's the best way to show me that you want more content like this on YouTube. Now, let's talk about the build in detail. So the idea of this build is we are utilizing Blast Rain. Blast Rain is normally a trap skill that you can throw around like a throwing attack skill, but you can convert it into a bow skill utilizing Blast Rain. This makes it so it scales up bow stuff and bow attack speed specifically. That's important because we're going to be using it as a bow skill, and that's so that it scales with all the other bow stuff that we have. Now we also use these blast rains. We have a bunch of extra projectiles. Right now, I believe we shoot out 6 projectiles every single time we attack. Now these do a little bit less damage than other things do because it has a few less damage modifiers on the tree, I think, but that's like fine. It's not a big deal. We're just hitting 6 times, which is important for all of the other things that we're doing. We're also making blast rain shoot out detonating arrows. Detonating arrows, of course, they can hit the target, deal damage over time, and they also have an explosion. So there's a 1 in 8 chance for this detonating arrow to explode and to cause an explosion, and that explosion does a very large amount of damage, and it also procs a bunch of lightning strikes, which can help us clear. So if you watch a pack, they'll get a bunch of lightning strikes because we're shooting 6 times per time we attack. So odds are every so often, at least maybe a third of the time, we're gonna get an explosion off, and that's going to do a decent amount of damage in packs, and it's mainly for clear. Then the next thing we have blast rain parking spark charges. Spark charges are just simply a lightning spell damage, and you can apply it to multiple enemies and it shotguns. This is mainly due for clear. So the idea is we apply spark charges to a bunch of trash, which this event has a bunch of, and we do a bunch of bleeds in an area with our spark charges. You'll see in the footage, you just see a bunch of spark charges going off constantly. And that's pretty much it for the blast rain. We're just scaling it the normal way that we scale bleed with Blood of the Exiled, Salt the Wound. We have a Sanguine Horde as well, Valdir's Chalice. All of that combined just lets us do a very large amount of bleed damage and have a large amount of bleed duration. Now, that's the first part. The second part is I decided to cut all of my defensive skills out of my build. So for instance, I cut out the decoy specialization, I cut out smoke bomb, I cut out shurikens, I cut out everything so that I had room to have another skill set up. So this is, we have Umbral Blades. Now, Umbral Blades is notorious for doing a very large amount of damage right now, and we're abusing it right now to get a little bit of extra single target. So what we do is we utilize shift, which gives our next skill after we shift a very large amount of bleed chance, bleed effect, bleed duration, and more damage, and that will snapshot on the spinny umbral blade that we throw out under mobs' feet, and that will last for maybe a few seconds. So on single target, what we do is we use puncture to get a bunch of global bleed chance in its tree, then we utilize shift, then we Umbral Blades onto the opponent, and then we use Blast Rain. Umbral Blades is a large majority of our single target. It's about half and half, if I'm mistaken. Blast Rain does half of our single target, and Umbral Blades is the other half, and it's just a bunch of free damage that we normally wouldn't have access to. All of this investment into DPS and all of this investment into damage means that not only can we move through endgame smoothly, but it also means that all of our gear can be focused on defenses. So, a while back, I saw a few marksmen playing around with stacking endurance threshold instead of stacking HP. That is because marksman is notorious for being very squishy in general. It does not have that much HP scaling or armor scaling, making it very hard to scale survivability. But it turns out we can actually utilize endurance threshold scaling. So we grab a bunch of endurance threshold on our gear and endurance threshold everywhere else, and it ends up being almost as usable as HP. And of course, we can put armor everywhere else. We can get like flat armor on my Blood of the Exile here. We can just get a bunch of armor scaling as well. And on top of the endurance threshold, because they don't take as many slots, endurance threshold does not take as many slots to scale as HP, which makes it a little bit more usable because of that, which is good for us as we're at like 2.6k HP as it currently stands, and we feel as though we have like 3.5 to 4k HP, which is phenomenal considering, you know, we're a marksman and marksmans are very hard to get going. Now, I would put more effort into the gearing on this character. I would put more currency. I'm currently sitting on 2 million gold right now after a few sales, and normally I would put all that into the character because right now, you know, the economy's new and fresh, so 2 million go for a decent amount of upgrades. But I thought it would be more fun to show you guys the character after I've done everything like a normal league starter build would be capable of, right? And you'd want him to do, because you want it to get all your harbingers, you want to kill Aberoth, and you want it to get to like 600-ish corruption. That's like cycle starter material. And I want to show you guys what my character looks like after it, so you can see the kind of gear that you're looking for when you're pushing this kind of stuff, like the quality of said gear, right? Which is not very high. My gear is not very high quality. That's because there's not that many people playing in the cycle. So since I'm in front of everyone else, you know, I'm like is like day 3 and I'm at 700 corruption. I got my Aberoth killed. I'm an empowered monos. Most people, like, I'll be honest, a lot of people are probably not even in merchant's guild yet. So there's no one to sell to. So I've been pretty much focused to, I've been pretty much working with breadcrumbs at this point, trying to, you know, scrounge up as much gear as humanly possible while I wait for everyone to start buying my stuff, which they have started to today, thankfully. But yeah, with all that being said, this has been Dread. Let's go in game and talk about the build more in detail, shall we? All right, here we are in game with the character here. Let's go over it, shall we? So for the skills here, we have explosive trap. So the main thing we want first is blast rain. This makes it so that it scales with bow stuff, which is good. We have to take 2 extra traps thrown, so that throws out 3 traps at once at base. Then we grab this combo of nodes, static mines, which converts it to lightning. We grab Trappist, which then adds an extra explosive trap based on the conversions, and then Cold Snap Mines. This means that we should get an extra, I think, 3 projectiles, or either 3 or 2 projectiles from explosive trap, which is just more projectiles, which is good for us. It does add less damage, less area, and mana cost, but it gives us even more projectiles, which is all we really care about this build. That is because of the node up here in the upper left, arrow traps. This makes it so that we shoot out a detonating arrow on trap detonation. So every single time I cast an explosive arrow, I get a detonating arrow. And that is very important because we're going to be doing a large majority of our damage with detonating arrow. But let's finish explosive trap. Another node that we have is smoke traps. Smoke traps just gives us some dust shroud scaling. This helps us cap our glancing blow right now. Right now we're 47, but while in combat we are capped on glancing blow because we are grabbing the nodes inside Blade Dancer and foregoing our dodge for glancing blow chance. So this will cap us on glancing blow when we're in combat. We also grab subtle sabotage for the massive minus 40% mana cost. We don't really care about the damage that explosive trap does, although it does still do a decent amount of damage even with all these negative damage modifiers, right? So like it still works. Then we grab 2 points traps here, a trap sprinkler. This makes it so that when it detonates, it will shoot out another explosive trap if there's a nearby enemy. Then we go up to 70% chance as well. So we have a 90% chance to shoot another projectile. So it just doubles our projectiles. So now we have a 21 mana cost and we get about 12 projectiles per time we shoot every time I right click. And then of course, those then shoot out detonating arrows. But before that, we also apply spark charges on hit. This just gives us a very large amount of AoE clear because every single explosive trap we see can apply spark charge at 6% rate. And then those can shotgun between mobs. So if you like spark charge like 5 things and they're near each other, you can do spark charges 5 times. And with global bleed chance, that actually does a decent amount of damage. And that's pretty much it for explosive trap. Now for detonating arrow, it's a very simple tree. Mainly we want mana arrow. We do not want our detonating arrow to cost any mana at all, because right now we're already still doing a bunch of mana, but it does make it so that there's an explosion chance of 15% instead of 100%. So 1 in 8 projectiles will explode. That is completely fine by us, because mainly we're just using detonating arrows because it's just extra hits, and we can talk about that more here. So we grab Arcing Blast. This just makes it so that whenever there is an explosion, so 1 in 8 chance, we hit 8 extra targets. This gives us a lot of extra clear, like a lot of extra clear. It helps us hit so many extra targets, because remember, every single time we cast Explosive Trap, that's like 5 to 6 projectiles, and then that's doubled, so it's 12-ish projectiles. That's 12 detonating arrows, so that's almost like 2 of these explosions, so it's like 16 extra targets we hit. Gives us a lot of clear. And of course, the explosion itself does decent damage. Now, we're also doing 1 point travel into Beast Slayer, although getting more points with this, with plus levels of detonating arrow, would give you a decent chunk of damage. We grab 2 points travel into Lethal Blast, because this explosive hit damage does not apply to our ailments. And then 3 points into Concentration. This is global. I mean, this is more damage, like non-hit damage, like it just cares about everything. So this will make it so whenever there is an explosion with our Explosive Trap, it does a large amount of ailment damage. Then we also grab Deadly Ailments, which was added last patch, that ailments inflicted by detonating arrow deal more damage over time, so we get 25% more damage with the arrow itself, which is huge, and then the explosive itself, which is here huge as well. So that's pretty much it for detonating arrow. Then for puncture here, puncture, your stereotypical utility puncture setup. Mainly, we're just getting the global bleed stacks, which makes our damage just that much higher. We're grabbing mana on hit, and this on the mana on the tree as well makes it so that we can actually sustain our mana decently well as we're building up our stacks. Then we're also grabbing rapid strikes, which gives us a lot of extra attack speed for free while we're in monoliths, and makes things feel much smoother when we're running around. And then we grab infectious toxins at the end to give us 10%, 12% more damage. And that's pretty much it for puncture. Now, let's talk about the Umbral Blade setup. So right now we have shift. The way this works is we're making it so the next skill we cast has a decent amount of bleed chance, has a massive amount of bleed duration and pen with bleed, and then we're also getting a massive amount of more damage from this and Brazuka's hesitation. Literally just 50% more damage and a lot of extra duration and pen. This actually works while we're clearing, so if I dash and use an Explosive Trap, all 6 of those projectiles will deal more damage, have bigger bleeds, so it's actually okay for clear, but we're mainly utilizing it to cast an Umbral Blade. So we use shift and then cast an Umbral Blade here, just like an Umbral Blade here. You do have to do with the timing, you do have to make sure that you're shifting then using your skill. You can't accidentally steal the buff with a different skill, so you need to pay attention to that. There you go, like Umbral Blade after that. We can talk about Umbral Blade. Mainly, we want to get Cacophony of Steel to get extra, to get the blade spin in place. We like the blade spin in place, as you can see here. Blade spin in place are very good, as it allows us to apply a bunch of bleeds, and that snapshots the bleed chance, the bleed duration, the bleed effect, all of this stuff. It snapshots all of this for the entire cast of Umbral Blades, which is why we're doing so much damage with it. Then, of course, we grab homing, duration, so it lasts longer. We get more damage per Dust Shroud, which actually scales really well with our smoke traps here. Lots of more damage for our Umbral Blades, thanks to the fact that we're just using Explosive Trap. Then we throw out target location so that it feels good, and then some extra bleed chance here, because why not? We don't have anything else to grab. And that's pretty much it for our skills. Let's talk about our passives that are important. So this here, right here, is a godsend. It makes it so every third blast rain we shoot out, we apply 5 extra bleed stacks with each hit. That's a lot of extra damage, as you can tell. And clearing, this makes it swapping into this build early on much easier. Grabbing the less damage taken while moving, getting increased damage based on our movement speed. Eventually you want that, all points in that. The attack speed, the mana gained on hits. We get 12 mana gain when we use a skill that's 0 cost, i.e. puncture, so we can sustain our our blast rain, as it does cost a decent amount of damage. Blade Dancer, mainly we just want the glancing blow chance, and we want the apostasy. Getting the extra 80 flat life is also nice, and the Dust Shroud when hit is also nice. Then for Falconer here, Falconer, we just care about getting Outliner's tenacity. This just gives us a lot of extra endurance threshold right now, just 15% of our HP. Whenever we haven't been hit recently against bosses, this is up all the time. Lots of extra DR. Then Marksman here, attack speed, more damage with concentration on single target. This dodge flat so that scales with apostasy to give us even more glancing blow. Then this note here, same thing with like don't get hit, yada yada yada. Lots of extra less damage taken for bosses. Then 5 points into barbed arrows to give us a lot of fizz shred chance. Global, this will make it so that we can deal up to 50% more, 50% extra damage to like trash and stuff like that, as it reduces our resistances by 50%. Same thing with rares, because all the rares right now are very scary with the event and stuff like that. So just having shred is great. This stacks on top of our pen that we currently have. Dust Shroud scaling, getting the mana regen. Our bow attack actually has a decent amount of mana, so it's just 20% more damage as well as eventually. Then we're grabbing crit multi per stack here. We're actually scaling crit multi on this build. That's because we're running Assault the Wound. I can show you here. Look at that. Lots of extra damage, as you can see, just by running Assault the Wound. That is because of all the crit multi that we're scaling. And then we get even more when we're actually attacking. And that's pretty much it for the passives. Let's talk about the gear and blessings. So for blessings here, armor, of course. Bleed chance here. You want to grab blind on hit on your gear instead of running crit avoid. Then you want to run lightning res for here for just free chunk. And crit multi here for a fizz pen. This is like 20% fizz pen for our bleeds right here. And that's pretty much it for blessings. Now let's talk about gearing, shall we? So for mandatory items on this build, there are no mandatory items, although items that you really want, of course, is a Font of the Erased. We are hitting a bajillion times. Essentially, the way this works is as long as we are missing mana, we gain ward on hit based on our missing mana. And this combined with our HP scaling and stuff like that, if we're missing HP, we get a bajillion ward on hit and we hit a bajillion times, which helps immensely, right? So that's great. Font of the Erase is just really good item. Like it feels like it's night and day difference when you take this off and put it back on. It's amazing. Other items that you really want eventually. First things off, Blood of the Exile. This makes it so that as you're clearing monoliths and things are moving around, they're going to take that more physical ailment damage from moving around. It's also just a good base, also gives us bleed duration. Very good boots. Bowder's Chalice here gives us a lot of bleed chance and bleed duration. It also gives us physical damage, leeches life, and life gain on kill as well per stack of bleed on the target. We get 999, so like we get infinite amounts of life. So it's like it's just infinite amount of life on kill while clearing, which is great. Very good item. Then Salt the Wound, like I said, for the crit multi-scaling, for extra fizz pen, and then of course, I slapped some endurance threshold on it. Then for our offhand here, we're running a Sanguine Horde. That's because not only does it have attack speed on it, which is good for us, makes our build feel better. It's also on a good base with the Legendary Nomad, because remember, our freaking explosive trap is a bow skill, and so is detonating arrows, so it's a lot of extra bleed chance, and we also get some flat HP, and we get fizz dot leech as life, which is good for us as it gives us a lot more sustain. And it's a low LP, so we can get really good stats on it. That's pretty much it for the uniques that you want with this build. Now let's talk about the rest of the gear. My helmet is absolutely absurd. I dropped this day one. It is just absolutely freaking absurd. I literally could not have dropped something better. This base is amazing, of course. This new base makes these bleed builds feel a lot better. Just phenomenal item. The only thing I could complain about, maybe that vitality could be bleed chance on bow hit, but like whatever, right? Amulet here, mana regen. You want a lot of mana regen to be able to sustain the high mana cost on Blast Rain currently, so getting mana regen on the amulet here is great. I got some stun avoidance because what happens is when you're lower life like this, when you're a lower life build, you do get stunned more often, so having some extra stun avoidance is great. So I went on the suffix here, and of course frailty, and then fizz damage. That can be fizz damage or crit multi, either way. Then for the bow here, fizz damage, implicit bow. The obsidian bow is really good because not only is it a good fast attack rate, it also just has a good implicit bow attack speed. Bleed chance on hit as well is just really good. Just anything like this is great. Chest here, I just have +2 explosive trap because explosive trap is a point whore, and then I just went for HP. On that prefix, you'd probably want bleed on bow hit or damage while wielding a bow. Those are your most preferable affixes. Like I said, Sanguine Horde, fizz damage, bow attack speed, blind on hit. This blind on hit is one of the only ways of getting blind on hit on this current build, on this current setup, meaning that it allows us to not be crit by enemies, means that we can run crit mods and not have to worry about it for the most part, means we also don't have to build crit avoid, which opens up suffixes. Then for belt here, mana regen, fizz dot, endurance. This would be perfect if it rolled better, but like, you know, whatever. But it'd be perfect if it rolled better. Then, like I said, salt the wound with endurance threshold for all that extra endurance threshold. Flat armor on Blood of the Exile. I went for flat armor, percent armor, movement speed, and strength. Any of those would have been fine, but mainly the flat armor was great. I can show you why. Look at my armor. Literally just so much free extra armor. And then Valor's Shells here, you probably want T7 endurance threshold on this. I just didn't hit it, like whatever. Then for idols here, these are your best in slot idols, percent health and fizz dot, and then the rest are just either HP or resistance idols. And that's pretty much it for the build today, guys. That's pretty much it for me today. With all that being said, this has been Jed, off to go do something else. Bye. I am absurdly tired. I just want to let you know, okay? I know, Wonder Dota. I know. I just want to let you guys know I am fucking tired. So I'm probably going to die. I just want to let you know that. Like, I'm very tired. I wish the game wouldn't fucking lag, dude. What the hell? You like stop lagging, dude? Holy. Sad that before the league? What about what? So it depends. My thing with like multi-shot is it's good enough, and like, you know, you need gear for it, which is like fine to ask for. It's just like, you know, you need to know that ahead of time. Hey, we hit the thing before. Okay, we got an acceptable DPS, guys. Cool. Dude, can you not do that shit, please? Can you like come over here, buddy? Thank you. Oh yeah, we got it. Yeah, there's multiplayer, Chad, man. There you go. Sorry it took so long. Holy crap.